All good, thank
Yeah.
you.
What do you make of that? They came hard at the end, but you managed to hold them off.
Yeah, they did. We thought the game, even though we had a bit of a buffer on the scoreboard for most of the game, did ebb and flow a little bit, and it wasn't completely unexpected that they would come late. I didn't think we handled it as well as we would have liked to, especially when we got out to circa 30 points in front. But you just know with their weapons that if you make a few errors, they're capable of capitalising, which they did. But then the last sort of 3 minutes or so, I thought we stiffened up a little bit and played the situation quite smartly.
Just listening to Jeremy Cameron just afterwards, and he sort of said, bang, those goals came so quickly. But once you had that time to actually find some composure, the last 3 minutes actually panned out pretty well. Were you happy with that element of the finish?
Yeah, I think that's a good summary. So it's much more disturbing when you see a pattern of structural errors after structural error that give the opposition the ball back. Our initial observation was that they were just taking their chances. Win a clearance in a contest, go forward to even numbers as the rules dictate with 6-6-6, win another contest, kick a goal and repeat. The frustrating ones when you're trying to get things done that the players should understand and we should have practiced enough and they don't get done. But we didn't see it that way. We just thought at times we were outplayed by good players in a contest.
How pleasing was it to Cameron go through that? It's a nice opening minute for him compared to what happened when I suppose he started the pre-season and opening fair contracts.
Yeah, I think it helps when you get a touch early and then he took a hanger and was involved in our first goal. Look, I understand that it might have been perceived as a bit of a risk to bring him back, and I know it's a lovely line to say he hasn't played AFL footy for a year, but his preparation was geared from a long way out to come straight back into AFL football. There was an opportunity to play him a few weeks ago if we wanted to through the VFL, but we chose to prioritise training. Every situation's a little bit different, so it's not to say that that's our policy. It was just the right thing to do in this circumstance, and if it didn't work out, we still would have been really comfortable, because that's a question we ask ourselves. Like, if this doesn't work out, will we look back and say, wish we had played him at VFL level and it was unanimous that we were comfortable? And so it's good still, even though you have that confidence that he gets through.
What did you make of his actual performance tonight?
Sorry, I couldn't hear
What
that.
did you make of his performance tonight?
Oh, Cam, we thought he was solid. So he played a little bit more, or a lot more back than he normally does. But with Stewart out, that made a bit of sense to us as well. I guess we had that as an option in our planning, that we'd bring him back sort of behind the ball. I'm not sure exactly how we would have done it if Stewart was in the team, but it was definitely an option. So not unexpected that he played there, but it's also not unexpected that late in the game when the heat was on, he was in the middle.
Losing Dangerfield, how did you think the midfield stood up after that?
So I'm just struggling to hear. Is that door open or?
Yeah.
Might be me. Oh yeah, sorry. Okay. So this is not great TV. Sorry, guys.
Like you went up live.
Yeah.
Dangerfield, you lost in the third quarter. How did you feel the midfield stood up after?
Well, we were playing him a little bit more forward than is usual. Now, I didn't sit down and rate all the players, but we thought he was one of the most influential players on the ground until he went off. So clearly it left a big hole, but it wasn't necessarily just in our midfield. We really took Tom Atkins in as a sub as a load management thing more than anything. So getting him into that midfield was something that was going to be good for us, irrespective of who came out. Now, our preference wouldn't have been for Pat to come out, but he's just so dynamic around the ball, and so it was a challenge for us to arrest it. But again, our method at the moment is not going to be put two gun players in there and they change the game for us. It has to be weight of numbers, and we thought the consistency of the players that went through there was our strength versus a couple of their stars who are still pretty good.
Is it the same hamstring as you did recently, and how bad, do you know, any diagnosis yet?
I just know it's a hamstring, so I could speculate, but I don't think that helps. Subbed off with a hamstring. The club will give a little bit more detail as the week goes on, but I'm not sure at the moment.
The efficiency inside the 50-metre arc, and also, I suppose, the conversion from set shots was clearly very high. And it seems like it's been a pattern for much of the season. Is there anything you can attribute to that?
The opposition, there's two sides to it. So the Carlton dominated field position at times. Their clearance work is a strength of theirs. And the risk is that if they slaughter you in there, and early on in the game, I think there were 6-0 centre clearances. You give up field position a little bit, and there's no team in the competition that then just sits back in their back half in that situation. So it can be hard to move the ball, but when you do move the ball from that congested back half into an open forward half, it's easier to be efficient. So I think from our perspective, we're not setting the game up to say, let's have the ball live in our back half and when we can get it through, we'll score. But I think that's how a few of our games have panned out a little bit. It's not necessarily by design. We're certainly not setting up to start our forward forays from the back half. So, yeah, again, I'll need to look at it a little closer to work out how critical we should be of some of our contest clearance work and how much was just good players. Because sometimes good players just beat you. But the key for us is making sure, well, if that happens, that we don't get scored against every time. And I thought the way we held up against their inside 50 dominance was really solid.
I was going to say, conversely, you've been able to, I suppose, aside from that 4-goal burst, being able to restrict Carlton through those 4 quarters. How pleased were you with the defensive effort without Tom being there?
Yeah, very pleased. So that's a factor, Stuart not being there. But and we talked about it a fair bit, if you go into the game thinking they're going to dominate the inside 50s and they've got such quality ahead of the ball and we could still stand up and win the game, that'd be a real credit to the guys who are in the back half. And some of our guys back there didn't get a whole lot of the ball, but I thought they were crucial in the game. Sam de Koning in his 50th. I said during the week, and I thought again today, it just looks like he's been there for a long, long time because he's, even for a really young guy, he's so solid against. It's not just Curnow and Mackay. They've got a few of them down there, including Sam's brother. So I thought, Henry Kolajasny did a really good job under fierce pressure.
It's nice to see such a massive crowd. You play a home game with G, obviously against a big Melbourne club, and you end up with 88,000.
Yeah, it's amazing. And the exciting thing for us is we've got a new stand with a 40,000 seat capacity that it seems to me that we can just fill with Geelong people. And if you had said that 15 years ago, 20 years ago, people would have laughed at you. Hopefully we've given our supporters reason to be optimistic. I mean, that's sort of what we're almost always doing, saying, look, we can't guarantee anything, but we're going to do our best to give ourselves a chance. We're not going to roll over, voluntarily. So it's exciting to get big crowds. Obviously, we needed the other team to be a big Melbourne club to get that sort of number, but I don't see any reason why our supporters wouldn't be excited to make sure that they get their seats booked early for some big games at the Cattery, like Port in a fortnight down at Geelong. Hopefully, it's 2 good teams worthy of a 40,000 capacity crowd without too many of those Adelaide people.
You have Brisbane last week.
Yeah.
Melbourne next week. And
Yeah.
you're talking about Port.
Yeah.
It's the thing about it being an even competition, but it doesn't seem like it's the easiest stretch of games to be negotiating or navigating.
No, it's a really challenging period. But even it looked challenging at the start of the year. But I know from experience that games tend to pop up that on paper looked like they might not be as difficult, and then all of a sudden that team's in ripping form. You can look at it at who you play, but it's kind of when you play them that counts a little bit more, in my opinion. And it's just daunting when you look at the draw and if you look too far out. So our policy is to let the coaches do all that sort of longer term planning and have as many people as possible sort of focused on the next day. So we'll come away from this review, I'm sure, clear that there's a lot that we can improve on. But there's also a lot to be optimistic about, which is exciting. So it doesn't guarantee us anything next week, but it's always good to play, I think, the best teams when you're in a little bit of form. So Pat not being there will hurt a bit, but that's been the pattern, in my opinion, of some of the good teams over the last decade or so. You can still get it done without your best players, and then if you can get them back fresh and in good form, then good things can happen.